is to know, from masterpieces to deep fried tacos. And if the movie sucks, you might hear them say, there's no telling where the guys will take you. Get ready for a spoiler. Won't say it twice, cause we already warned you. Better watch out, it's gonna ruin the plot. Real spoilers. Real spoilers. Real spoilers.
Broadcasting from the lush but not lavish studios located in the basement of the O'Keefe Institute for Advanced Film Snarkitude, this is Real Spoilers, episode 790, Abigail, the King Diamond story.
That's very good.
Okay.
That's a heavy metal reference that Kevin doesn't get.
That's a deep cut heavy metal reference.
I will admit that. No problem.
Oh, King Diamond.
King Diamond's good stuff.
They're the worst.
No, really?
Oh my God, that guy's voice is so
I like
irritating to me.
They're heavy metal?
Yeah.
I would. Yeah.
Oh yeah, they're absolutely heavy metal.
I was thinking hair metal, but they're more.
No, they were kind of like precursors to death metal.
Yes.
Like they weren't quite death metal, but like all their songs were about Satan. They were really scary. But then the vocals to me always sounded like Tiny Tim when he's just like it's a lot of that.
That's I was watching a documentary on Nightmare on Elm Street.
Yeah.
And they talked to the guys from Dokken who do the theme song, I think, for
The
Dream Warriors.
Yeah. Same one that has Goo Goo Dolls on the soundtrack, right? Or are they on 4?
They're on one of the late '90s ones.
Yeah, but it was like
it's the alternative Goo Goo Dolls.
Well,
it's
no,
like the heavy metal.
Right before they became an alt rock
Yes,
band.
yes.
They were signed to Metal Blade Records,
Yep.
and they would go on tour with bands like St. Louis's own Anna Crucis and Metallica,
And then
stuff like that.
and then Iris hit, and they're like, oh.
Yeah,
This is what we're doing now.
I used to talk when I worked at the Point, the alt rock station in St. Louis. I would talk to interns sometimes, and I would always use the Goo Goo Dolls as an example of like career paths, right?
Yeah.
And I called it the Johnny Resnick conundrum. And I was like, what happens when the thing that you're good at isn't necessarily the thing that you love, right? Like
That's fair.
like he started a metal hard rock band.
Yeah.
And then, like, that didn't go anywhere. And then alt rock picks up, and they kind of pivot to that. And it turned out they were really good at the lighter end of alt rock.
It's like Mr. Big.
Yeah. And so I'm like, so now what do? Do you just say, no, damn it, I'm going to keep putting out these other records nobody cares about? Or are you going to?
Depends how much of an artiste you are.
Yeah, you're going to take the money.
Is
And guess what? The Goo Goo Dolls took the money.
Yes, take the money. And that's what I would tell the kids. Take the money.
Take the money.
Take the money.
Always.
And then, you know what? Take the money and then have a side
Hobby,
project.
right.
That's exactly it.
You know? And
You fund your hobby.
Right.
Fund the thing you want to do.
Talk to, what's the husband from Rosemary's Baby?
John Cassavetes?
John Cassavetes.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what he would do.
Yep.
Yeah.
But no, so they talked to that guy from Dokken, and he was just like, I should not have sung that high on that song.
Yeah.
Because I can't do it now.
He shouldn't have sung that high on any of those
That's
songs
true.
because he can't do it now.
He cannot. It's like Vince Neil.
And then so Jeff Pilson was a bass player for Dokken.
Yeah.
And
Rocking with Dokken.
And I think he was kind of secretly singing a lot of those songs.
Oh, is that right?
Especially like live because I saw them this would have been like 2000. I booked them when I was working at Pops, and I hadn't seen Dokken in years, right? And so I'm in there for the sound check, and I was like, man, they still sound pretty good. Mm-hmm. That's not really how I remember him looking, but it's been 15 years since I've thought about Dokken.
Yeah,
right.
right.
And so then they come out for the show, and I was like, that's
Wait a
Don
minute.
Dokken. But it didn't sound any different, right? And so
It's like it's Jerry Cantrell.
yeah,
If you take Jerry Cantrell out of Alice in Chains, it does not sound the same.
yeah,
It is very different. That's why that guy they got now sounds so much like Lane Staley.
yeah,
That, now they've got Jerry Cantrell doing the backups.
yeah.
And you're like, oh, yeah, it sounds exactly the same.
Yeah, the guy that they have in Alice in
He's
Chains
good.
is just like
Sounds just like
because
him.
I haven't seen the new Alice in Chains, but I saw Jerry Cantrell solo,
Yeah.
and that guy sang in his band. And when they would do Alice in Chains songs, I was just like, well, I see why you're in the band.
It is crazy to look at him too.
Yeah.
Because he's like a little black dude with a giant afro.
Yeah.
Rocking out,
Sounding like
Lane Staley.
Yeah.
Just like him.
So let's go around the table and everybody can introduce
You
themselves.
haven't introduced the show.
Yeah, I did.
I think that he did.
I absolutely did.
That's how we got to
You
the
actually
songs.
did introduce it?
Yeah.
I did.
Yeah, I got lost in
pay
that.
attention,
that,
Kevin.
I'm
Thanks
not,
for listening.
I'm not a rock guy, so I didn't understand anything you guys just said.
Yeah,
and
there's
so,
a whole King Diamond
Yeah.
gag.
Kevin Brackett, for long-time caller, first-time listener.
Hey, that was like a whole different podcast I was
Yeah.
just on.
That's pretty good.
Wow.
This is Joe.
Welcome to Real Metal.
Real metal. Oh, with 2 E's.
Yes.
Yeah.
This is Kevin.
Real Metal?
Yes, real metal. That's
Yeah.
exactly what I meant.
And this is Tom. So before we dig in, let's get some shameless plugs out of the way. Kevin, I'm doing shameless plugs right now.
We're going to start giving Kevin show notes.
Yes. Don't forget we're available on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube, TuneIn, iHeart, wherever you find a podcast, you can find us. While you're there, be sure and follow us so you never miss an episode, and maybe leave us a review to feed our egos. You can find us on Patreon to feed our wallets, at patreon.com/real spoilers, where for $5 a month, you get all sorts of bonus content, and you help out the show tremendously, which is fund things like computers and mics
Yeah.
and hosting costs and all
Doesn't
that
go
sort
in
of
our
stuff.
pocket, folks.
Yeah, I mean, we wish.
Yeah.
We'd love to be skimming off the top, but so far it hasn't gotten to the top.
No, it is not.
So
There's nothing to skim.
there's nothing to skim, but we're not above it. You can also find us on Facebook at facebook.com/real spoilers. While you're there, like the page, join the group. The group is the best place to go if you just kind of want to interact with us and the other listeners. It's called the League of Show Sharers because we are hoping you will share an episode. And people who were kind enough to share an episode this week include Chris Falls, Julianne Jordan, Tammy Lynn Powers Betts, Tom Dowdy, Ralph Tribble, Chris Magic Man, Richard Krotzer, Gabriel Lugo, Travis Tewitt, Taylor Ward, Greg Summers, Dissect That Film, Heather Sachs, Brent Smith, David Rojas, Vertigay 314, The Kryptonian Orphan, Nostalgia Cast, Colby Mack, Spoiler Piece Theater, Matt Naglia, Geek to Me Radio, Ronnie Castle, Mike and Oscar, In Session Film, Ryan Terry, and Binge Movies. I didn't see you. When did you share
I
it?
did it this morning.
Last night.
Oh, well, I did it yesterday afternoon.
okay.
So there you
I'm
go.
pretty sure
Kevin
that was,
liked it.
I'm pretty sure that was technically this morning.
It was not.
It wasn't after midnight?
I don't think so. I honestly don't know. I was at work listening to it, so
So,
I still did it.
okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Kevin liked the post. It counts.
It's like I did it like late afternoon yesterday.
I usually save it.
So anyway, there's all that. Let's dig in, shall we?
These guys love covering their lead actresses in muck
blood.
and then letting them walk out of a burned down house.
Yeah, they love doing the whole movie in one house.
Yeah, right. I think even their VHS segment is inside a haunted
it?
house.
Yeah.
I think.
So in an interview, they asked them about how do you love being in these type of situations where it's, just running away in a house and everything. And they're like, they come from the indie filmmaking of like, what location can we get? Now let's write a story that works in this location.
Do you think?
But they're above that now.
I know, but it's like,
Well,
that's,
not
you know
even
what?
complaining, but
Maybe working on those last two Scream movies, we're like, let's go back to
yeah.
where we're,
Yeah.
Yeah, like they don't have to, but I think their sensibilities, they just said we're so used to that it's like,
I think that set
is Resident Evil.
is Wayne Manor.
Oh, it looks like Resident Evil to me.
The kitchen looks just like the kitchen from The Flash.
Oh, the one Keaton's in when he's
Yes,
flipping around.
it's set up exactly the same.
Oh, I was wondering. See, I thought I didn't watch the Resident Evil TV show or whatever on Netflix.
No.
But do you remember the first Resident Evil game when
Sure.
they're in the
Yeah, yeah.
manor and
Yeah, yeah.
there's that big opening with the stairwells? And I go, if they didn't just use this place for a Resident Evil movie, what are they doing? I mean, it looks like the mansion.
Well, because the Resident Evil movies don't follow the games.
Well, that's the problem. Is that they're like, here we've got 3D cubes and all this stuff. It's like that's cool. That's not in the games.
it's not the games. It has nothing. Who is this Alice character?
Can we go back to talking about King Diamond?
Yeah.
No.
But I did when they're in that kitchen. I was like, this is this has to be the same
Interesting.
setup.
It's a really cool location.
It is.
I thought it was a great looking place, and I like it when there's these kind of chamber piece type movies.
The
where
only
they're-
problem I had
Yeah.
is they just did this. Like it's kind of the same premise as Ready or Not. Kind of.
Here's the thing I gotta.
It's very similar.
Yeah.
I don't know if you guys picked up on this, and I actually don't see anyone talking about this. And I had a lot of fun with this movie.
I had a
thought
blast. It was a lot of fun.
Yeah.
I thought that was a fun time. It's Clue.
It is Clue. It's absolutely Clue.
This is like the plot of Clue, like beat for beat. Like I found myself getting distracted because it's so close to Clue.
Mm-hmm.
The characters, the setting, the things that they do throughout the movie, and like where I'm like, at what point are you like? I get paying homage to something, but if you're not like coming out and talking about how, oh yeah, this is a spiritual successor to Clue or whatever, and you just do it and it's so close, it's like it was just distracting for me.
I thought for sure at the end of this movie,
we'd get three endings.
I thought it was gonna be Samara Weaving.
Right, there'd be.
I thought Samara Weaving was gonna as the bride from Ready or
I
Not.
thought it was a shared universe.
Absolutely,
I was surprised when we get the dad at the end and there was no stunt casting involved. I really thought
that's Matthew Good.
That's Matthew Good.
Ozymandias
that's an
from
actor
Watchmen. To get Matthew Good. That's a big.
But I did think the same thing.
I don't know.
I
don't feel
him,
like Matthew Good is like if Nicolas Cage came walking in.
No,
or
but
I thought as Dracula,
as
the Renfield Dracula,
right?
Would be
like I thought we
bonkers.
were gonna get like a name above the title actor or some cute nod to something else. Like
but that,
with all due respect to Matthew Good, that ain't you.
He's Ozymandias. That's what I know him as.
But that he's still that role is it's one scene
it's
and requires
him.
They got Matthew Good when that could have been anybody.
Yeah.
So like I do
Dan
feel
Stevens. No, but
What?
Like, I think if Dan Stevens isn't in this movie, that's Dan Stevens.
Oh.
You know what I mean? Like I could see that being like a cameo for him.
Interesting. But anyway, so I had a lot of fun with this movie, but it was hard for me because here's the premise of Clue. All these people come to a mansion. It all takes place in one mansion. They don't know why they're there. They're under false pretenses. Mr. Body has them there for a dinner party, but come to find out there's another reason they're there. They say, don't use your real names. Here's some fake names to use. Then all of a sudden someone's saying who the people really are. Someone dies. They're running around trying to figure out who did it.
It's also the plot of Murder by Death, though. Like, I mean, this.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, that wasn't an original plot for Clue either.
I know they adapted, sure, and so I guess you could say both of them. But then let's split up into two teams, and that's the comedy with, like Miss Scarlet and Mr. or
Colonel
the
Mustard?
butler.
Oh yeah.
And then it's like Miss Peacock and Colonel Mustard. It's just like. The plot of this movie is so similar to Clue, where
it
it's
is
like,
very similar
just
to
come
Clue.
out and say I wanted it to be like a reveal, like, oh my God, they're remaking Clue. But now that no one's talking about it, I'm like, well, this just feels weird because
I do think that there comes a point where the people that are seeing movie, if my kid sees this movie, she's never seen. She's never
no Clue.
Exactly.
And we did the same things too, because I do know that when we would see movies and we'd love them and not know they weren't totally original, but then Tom would be like, "Oh yeah, no, I mean seriously though, he's done it." Where he goes, "Guys, this is
it's
whatever."
this.
So
It's
I get it, but there was just something strange, and I love the radio silence,
in the neighborhood.
guys. It's what's that?
In the neighborhood?
Yeah, in the Alamo neighborhood.
Oh,
That's
okay,
where it was. And wherever you saw this movie. But I just wanted to get that out there that I left and then I Googled it because I'm like, this is Clue. Okay, Clue's one of the movies I've seen more than anything. Jurassic Park, #1. But I had that
Is
on
that
VHS.
right? Clue is the one you've seen more than anything?
No, one of the ones. Jurassic Park, #1.
Okay.
But Clue I rented from the video store and I got on VHS and would watch it. I love that movie. So I've seen it so many times where, you've seen Jaws so many times, you're going to pick up on Jaws references, whatever. And so throughout the movie.
Godzilla was Jaws.
Oh, without question. Yeah.
So anyway, I just thought that was really interesting and I kind of wish more people were talking about it.
I think it's probably not because it's kind of like they took your kind of classic murder mystery premise, and then did a horror twist on it, right?
Yeah.
Because Clue has that storyline because it's used so frequently in murder mysteries, the chamber piece murder mysteries. So that story isn't really original to Clue, or
right?
Like if you make an airplane disaster movie and you're like, it's similar to Airplane, and it's like, well, that's also similar to Airport and Airport 75 and Airport 79, the Concorde, and
Well,
it's just interesting.
It's the Superman, Captain Marvel. All of those. You have this one character from 1938, and then you've got all of these. You can look at Supreme or Hyperion, and I'm just rattling off Homelander. There are all these characters that are absolutely derivative of Superman.
But they're doing it on purpose. They're doing it to make a point. It's a commentary. It's a satire. It's
I don't know about Captain Marvel probably wasn't on. I mean, it was on purpose. So they're like, we can make Superman, right?
We'll just do our own.
We'll just do our own.
Yeah.
That one was just plagiarism.
Yeah, right.
But anyway, so I wanted to start with that and see if anyone else picked up on that. And listeners, if you've seen Clue and know it and you saw this movie, I just was surprised no one else. I saw one person I searched for, and I think it was Gerald from Two Peas on a Pod movie review podcast, who we follow each other. So I searched for it, and he was the only one who said, and then he's like, this movie takes inspiration from blah, 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 Clue, blah, blah, blah. I loved it. Blah, blah. So he's the only one I saw mention. I'm like, how is this possible?
Yeah. It is kind of wild to think that, I mean, their audience is probably older folks, not older folks, but people that have seen Clue.
I bet these guys, the Radio Silence guys, the writer, guy, what's the guy?
These are not, the writers of this are not the Radio Silence
Guy
guys.
Busick. Yeah, they are. The one is.
I don't think I interviewed that guy.
It's Matt Bettinelli-Olpin and Tyler Gilpin.
Yep, those are the directors.
And those are the directors. And then Guy Busick
I have
is
to-
a
oh,
writer.
well,
It's one other guy and Guy Busick.
Yeah, we should say that if you are on the Patreon, if you go back and search, I did an interview with all of these guys right after Ready or Not came out. So that's out there.
And man, I left this movie going, this is similar to Ready or Not. And I'm like, man, Ready or Not's so good. And I also think that hurts this movie. Even though it's fun, but it's like that movie felt so original and so clever. And the other thing too is that, see, Ready or Not relies heavily on the comedy part of it. Like there's a lot of comedy to it.
Sure.
You know, it's not supernatural. It's people, so they don't have to get as
It is absolutely supernatural.
Ready or Not.
Yeah.
Well, okay, I guess they are doing
When you get to the end, it's straight up supernatural.
but
Spoilers
I guess
for Ready or Not.
maybe monsters and stuff.
Sure,
but
okay.
It relies on the comedy, and it just feels more comedy driven, and it works. But this being a vampire movie, I expected it to be scarier, and I didn't think anything about this movie was scary.
I think it had good jumps. I think it had some good, like, misdirected jump scares.
Did you?
I did.
I didn't get that from this one.
I had a few jump scares, but it didn't.
It didn't feel scary. The tone of it, right?
Yeah,
No.
the tone was not scary.
I feel like
I didn't think.
the ballerina, and I get that the juxtaposition of the ballerina vampire thing is funny, and I did like the comedy of it and everything, but it was so funny, or more leaned that way, to where I never felt threatened by her. I mean, obviously she was hunting him down, but I didn't feel it. You know,
Yeah.
like to me, it just didn't feel scary in that way.
I
So-
see. I think, honestly, when it got spoiler, we're just gonna jump to it. When the gal from Ant-Man turns into a vampire, I was like, that was creepy. That was very like unsettling. The way her face, like,
Yeah.
you know, the teeth in the face and all that, like that was unsettling. I didn't think Abigail was that spooky, but I thought
Yeah.
the other vampire was.
Sometimes little kids in horror movies can be really creepy and disconcerting, and I
Like,
don't know.
this kid might be in Scream 7. That's that she's gonna play. Spoilers for Scream 7. They're bringing back Neve Campbell, and they're bringing back.
Oh, that's a spoiler. That's all over the place.
Well, McDreamy, Patrick
Yeah, Dempsey.
Dempsey is coming, so he's.
How do you know this? Why do you think that?
Because
These are rumors.
because the Radio Silence guys reuse people, and they're
not doing it.
Yeah, but I think they're using their script. I think they're using some of their. Either way, Neve Campbell's coming back. If you know anything about the Scream franchise, she married the detective in the series. Sydney marries the detective from part 3.
Yeah.
They have kids. This girl was supposed to be one of their kids.
Now that makes sense since it was them doing it,
Right.
And but I
And
don't know if they
but
are
if
going to reuse their script. Probably revolved around people that aren't doing the movie anymore. Remember, they all quit.
Well, they didn't quit. One
of them
one
did.
got
Jenna
fired.
Ortega quit.
One got fired. Then they all quit after.
Right. Well,
yeah.
that's what I'm saying. They can't just use. They're probably not going to use the same script because it revolved around characters. They're not going to recast.
Well, I think if you're bringing back Neve Campbell, if that was part of their plan, I don't know. That movie's changed like 5 different
I'm
times
just saying
already.
before
because they
you
had already like said they weren't going to pay Neve Campbell real money.
Which is
Yeah.
like you mean the gal that's been in every single
Right.
one
and
of
then
these
everyone
movies?
got fired. And then as soon as that came
Well,
back, I
that-
sent
so
the headline to
what's
Tom,
her-
and I go, "Wow,
yeah,
they
we were both like, so Neve Campbell's
Mary.
coming back.
Yeah,
Hail Mary.
what's her name? Melissa
Barrera.
Barrera
Yeah.
gets fired. The Radio Silence guys aren't doing it.
Mm-hmm.
They bring in Michael Landon to do it. And Barrett's like, okay. And then they fire her.
From Little House on the Prairie?
No, his son,
No.
Chris Landon.
Oh, okay.
Isn't that right?
Yeah,
Chris Landon was going to do it.
yeah.
'Cause he did.
Happy Death Day.
Yeah, and
And
the
Freaky Friday.
Yeah.
Freaky.
So then they fire what's her name, and then Jenna Ortega's like, I'm out, and then the Chris Landon's like, I'm out.
Oh, it was such a.
It was like, and everybody was like, we're
Chris,
gone.
I said, why would you want to do that? If you're Chris Landon and you've made these movies people enjoy, and now everyone's mad at.
Right.
I would not touch that. And
but yeah, now Nev Campbell's coming back. Patrick Dempsey's coming back.
I'm just saying, it's fun to speculate and rumors and stuff, but I don't know that we can say for sure that all those things are happening.
What thing? That this little girl's going to be in it?
Yeah, I mean, unless you have some inside source and it's breaking news.
Nobody has anybody that says they have inside sources are full of.
I mean,
they don't have inside sources.
Before the internet, people used to have inside sources and they were trusted, but now it's just like
an
Cosmic Book News says that.
An inside source tells me this. Who's your source?
And then James Gunn has to respond to all of them like, you're idiots in the nicest way possible.
He's like, if it's not coming from me, don't believe it.
He said, oh my gosh. But anyway, so this movie, the people that are in it, it's got a pretty good ensemble cast.
It does.
You said Melissa Barrera is Joey. Dan Stevens, the year of Dan Stevens.
Yeah, Dan Stevens just keeps, that guy's working his butt off.
And the year of Katherine Newton, she was in Lisa Frankenstein.
And Ant-Man 3.
That's not this year, though.
Oh, man.
I was just saying this year.
Yeah, you're right.
But I said it in Lisa Frankenstein, even
She's
though
great.
I was not that, I was like,
you were wrong
on the
fine.
movie. But she is so charismatic and likable and funny. I think she's great. So yeah, Dan Stevens, Katherine Newton, Alisha Weir. She played Matilda in that Netflix musical. You probably didn't see it. But the Matilda the musical, she did the film adaptation.
I've seen the stupid
that dance.
Yes,
we can do.
Yeah. I've seen it. I've seen
like
it set to
moment.
I've seen it set to Dragula. It was great.
That was cool. Yeah, that was pretty good. I know. William Catlett, Kevin Durand, who's not Elon Musk. Angus Cloud, rest in peace, from Euphoria. Giancarlo Esposito.
Can I tell you that when he got his head cut off, I was like, thank God. Could deal without this character.
I think he has he was in an accident or something. That's why he speaks slow. And
what? Really?
The guy that died from Euphoria?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
I think he speaks that way because he has a scar on his head.
His character was grating.
Yeah.
Could not stand it.
But I think probably because of the way he talks, but he has like a
I guess.
he had a condition.
He doesn't
Rest in
now.
peace. Well, he's
Cloud
really
says
dead.
I know.
He suffered minor brain damage after falling into a construction pit in a poorly lit street set in the downtown area of Oakland in 2013. The accident resulted in a scar on the left side of his head.
Yeah. Does he sound like that on Euphoria?
Yes.
Okay.
I will say, because I mean, the character on Euphoria is great, and he was fine in this, but I was also like, so this guy does one thing.
Right.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. I mean, so I think that's how he talks. It's not really.
Okay.
But anyway.
Yeah, that was not an affect. Like,
I got you.
That is how he... Yeah.
It was weird when like Kevin Durand spoke strange and then that character speaks like that. And I'm like, does everyone have a weird way of speaking in this movie?
But is he French?
Kevin Durand does not sound like that in real life.
I didn't think he did, but there was a moment where I was like, maybe he just was putting on voices and other things.
Yeah,
like,
it was really, he's hilarious. He's one of the best parts of the movie.
I always forget how big he is.
Yeah, he's huge.
He's massive.
He's so funny. He was in what?
Wolverine?
The Wolverine.
He was the Blob.
Yeah. He's really good. I thought he was one of the funniest parts of the movie. His lines and his delivery was great, but just in that opening.
What a missed opportunity to not turn him into a terrifying vampire.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
But I guess they...
Get that like bodybuilder vampire.
Yeah, could you imagine that guy running around as a vampire? That'd be terrifying.
I gotta tell you, and it's funny, I didn't tweet it or say it, and I was going to. When we started seeing these trailers 2 months ago.
What a misfire on every level.
So the reveal being given away, is that what we're talking about?
Yeah.
So I'm of two minds because because the reveal of Abigail being a vampire comes really late in the movie.
It does.
It's like 50 or 55 minutes into an hour and 50-minute movie. Like,
Just make it a killer in a haunted house and you don't know, and then the reveal in the theater is it's a vampire and it's her, right?
But I think that's the thing is that if they hadn't shown you in the trailers it was a vampire movie, nobody would have gone to this movie.
I don't know,
horror
man.
people would have. I mean, this movie opened number 2 to Civil War by like 0.1 million. I mean, this movie beat a Guy Ritchie action movie, which is with Henry Cavill. That's really surprising to me.
Henry Cavill can't open a movie.
Yeah, but it's a Guy Ritchie action. I mean, you saw it. You thought it was pretty fun.
Yeah, it was fine.
It looked funny.
Do you think if you put Henry Cavill's name above the title, do people are like, I'm gonna go see that
it's
new
got
Henry?
Alan Richardson or whatever.
Does,
He's popular
He's
from Legion right now.
Another giant man.
He looks like a giant.
Do you think that? I don't think that he can.
Yeah,
I don't think he can.
Henry
either.
Cavill.
No.
Yeah, he really hasn't yet. I mean, Superman was his probably
But
biggest thing.
But he didn't.
He's one of those
Superman
names
opened that.
I feel like everybody knows the name,
Yeah.
But I don't know that enough people. I mean, there are certainly people out there who like Henry Cavill.
The Witcher. I mean,
But-
he's been in some big things.
Yeah, I don't doubt that he's a movie star.
I bet
just,
if he kept being Superman, he'd be huge. If they were good movies,
If they
and he
were,
was
yeah.
Superman, he would have gone to the
Probably.
A-list tier.
There's a whole lot of ifs, but yeah.
Sure, but you know what I mean? Because he was a really good Superman, writing aside or whatever. I mean, the look. and
Physically, sure.
Yeah. But I think I you know, so anyway, but I was surprised. But this movie was number one. I do agree it got a little extra buzz and because of the crazy concept. I mean, that's why it's a ballerina vampire. It's so weird. But yeah, I think horror people are turned up for movies.
I think if you
I
market
think it's
this
hard
right,
to convey this as a horror movie without revealing that there's a vampire.
I think once you say, I feel like the Radio Silence guys have made their bones with Ready or Not and the 2 Scream movies. Like those 2 Scream movies did really well and were fairly
in
well
the horror
received.
community, people would know.
Absolutely.
that this
I
is,
think there's a way to cut those trailers where you don't reveal that Abigail is the vampire.
I bet you could cut her out and still have scary.
I think you could even leave her
misdirects
in and
Oh,
have
yeah,
her be
but the vampire
human.
part. No,
Yeah,
the vampire part. Though.
But I think it is.
But on the other side, we live in 2024 where there's 8,000 things per second getting thrown at you.
I also
And
think
I get
I
it,
think of
marketing,
I don't
yeah.
remember. I don't remember if in the trailer of From Dusk Till Dawn they reveal that it's vampires. Spoilers.
That is a wild. Now that movie with the reveal.
I don't remember if that's in the trailer or not.
Did you know?
I don't think so.
Because I know when I was a kid
when I was a
and
kid
I
and
rented it.
I had no
'Cause
idea
I
what it
go,
was.
what
I don't
the-
feel like I remember knowing it was a vampire movie going in.
When Selma Hayek turns into a
Yes,
vampire,
that's the-
you're like, what the?
I'll
what is
never
happening?
forget that as a kid because it was so weird. Because I
You
had.
were oddly turned on by it.
Is that after Pulp Fiction or before?
After.
Yeah. So I had known Reservoir Dogs. I had known Pulp Fiction.
yeah,
and
because that's why I'm like, it's the new Quentin Tarantino
Yeah.
movie. Of
Yep.
course, I'm going.
So I liked all the witty banter and everything, and then I watched the movie, and it turns into that. And as a kid, I couldn't appreciate it because I didn't watch much horror as a kid.
Sure.
And I was like, what the hell is going on? And so it's a cool thing now, but back then I was so confused as to.
It's a crazy reveal.
It is crazy.
I look for so Bella apparently watched Evil Dead Rise, and I didn't know it.
Oh wow.
And she was like, I watched this movie about this woman that gets possessed, and I was like, what? Did you watch Evil Dead? And she was like, but it was in like a tower. I'm like, did you watch Evil Dead Rise?
Wow.
And she was like, yeah, it's terrifying.
That's
No,
a bloody
it's-
movie.
I'm watching the trailer right now, and no, you can tell that
Okay.
they're in a vampire bar.
I wonder if as many people didn't watch trailers for movies though. Did people just go see a new movie without watching a trailer?
Yeah, it was a lot
often?
harder to see a trailer back
Yeah.
then. I mean, you either saw them in front of the movies,
movie, yeah.
and I mean, this, what, Dusk Till Dawn came out in '96.
Yeah.
So
96, 97?
I wonder if people would go, hey, it's the new Robert Rodriguez or Quentin Tarantino movie and just
Yeah.
see it and then have their minds blown.
yeah.
But she was like, it was terrifying.
Yeah.
And I
Well,
look forward to being like, what you're gonna watch.
Let's
from
talk
Dusk
about
Till
the
Dawn.
plot. So it's a heist. So they're all brought to this huge mansion under the guise of, oh, you've got this job to do and it's a 24-hour job.
Right.
They kidnap the little ballerina Abigail, the titular Abigail.
Yes.
And they bring her to this house. And
I think she's a little young to talk about her titulars. I just gotta.
Great. Now we're gonna get more comments.
Yeah.
Wonderful.
You do this to yourself. You're gonna wonder why you're getting a 10 million shorts about how all the liberals are you bring this on
Talking
yourself.
about titular.
And they bring her to this house though, and Giancarlo Esposito is like, "Stay here for 24 hours, and you'll each get what, like $8 million?
I think it was like
apiece?
seven
They're
million.
spending 50 million,
Yeah,
8
they're
ways or
splitting it.
something at the time, I guess, including him. So it's this huge job, and so like, yeah, how hard could it be to babysit this little girl?
And we're gonna do one person is gonna go in there and talk to her so she doesn't see anybody besides this one person. Melissa Barrera is that one person. I think she's. It's a shame.
Not Lizzie Kaplan.
Not Lizzie Kaplan is pretty good. It is a shame.
Who's Lizzie Kaplan? Because I'm not getting that.
Lizzie Kaplan was in. I know her from. What was the? Oh man, it was such a great show. It was where they were the caterers. Party Down.
Party Down?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
She's the girl in Party Down.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
Gotcha.
she's great. Yeah, Lizzie Kaplan's a fine. Look at your friend over there.
Oh yeah. Okay.
Yeah,
sure.
she's fantastic. What is it? The Masters of Sex.
Yeah.
I think she was on
She's
that.
in Cloverfield.
Okay. Yeah. That.
What? Who was she in
She's the girl,
Cloverfield?
right?
One of the ones the monster stepped on.
Oh, she's the one who explodes.
Okay, it's been a long time.
That's
but
a good
she's
movie.
but she's in because she was on that sitcom The Class that I've talked about.
Yeah,
That's like
yeah.
John Bernthal and
A
like
weird, very
the-
strange
the guy who
cast.
who would be on Modern Family. It was like this. It was supposed to be their. It was supposed to be CBS's Friends, and it was going to be huge, and then it just
wasn't.
And then it wasn't.
I'd just like to stop for a second. John who?
Bernthal? How would you say it?
I thought it was Bernthal.
Is it?
I thought it was John Bernthal.
The Punisher.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Shane. We'll just call him Shane.
Okay.
Yeah. I honestly, if you're,
I just any opportunity if you're misspeaking a
Kevin's
name,
like, give me some.
I think he's John.
He's like I've been
Spell
waiting.
that name.
I've been waiting 11 years for this.
Look up that name. See how it's spelled. I don't think it's Barenthal. I think it's Bernthal.
The Bernthal Bears.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh yeah, that is what their real name
their
was
real name.
actually. That's the
Yeah, that's-
Mandela effect. Is
right,
actually
right.
it's the Barenthal Bears.
Yeah. So she, and she does kind of have the way I thought this was going to go.
Yeah, it's Bernthal.
Oh, there we go.
Yeah.
So good. You got one.
Vindicated.
Well, you got
hey.
more to go. All right.
I'm just saying.
Come
if
on,
I
Knight-
get called
come on,
out for this,
Don't
you're
worry.
gonna get called out.
Don't
for
worry.
this.
Mirrors, you got one. You got.
First of all, you've
Yes.
traumatized me for life. Second of all, I
His
never say
nightmare-
that
He
anymore.
has nightmares about Josh Brolin.
Josh Brolin.
And I will tell you guys, if you want me to take clips from every popular
No,
movie and
please
television
don't.
show,
Oh.
almost everyone
I gotta
says
tell you, I hear
nightmare.
it. I
They
hear
say
it.
it
I
a
hear
lot,
it. I hear
yeah.
it now all
I
the time.
guarantee you more people than not say nightmares.
Well, they're
And
wrong.
I'm one that doesn't say it anymore.
They're all wrong.
But every time I watch something, I'm
Yeah.
like, that actor, that's how they pronounce it, nightmare, and that's how I grew up pronouncing
Well,
it. It's
you're
just-
all wrong.
Yeah. I'm just-
I
I heard something weird about language from a language expert, that language is something that we invented to communicate. And as long as you communicate, like, who's to say what's right and wrong? It's just the words are used to communicate their meaning.
Oh, there's right and wrong.
But who does we it's made up.
Oh, sure,
All
sure, sure.
languages are
It's
made
all
up.
a construct.
So
Yes,
you
yeah,
can't
yeah.
actually, when you say it's wrong, it's like, well, people that invented it did it one way and it evolves. Sometimes words change or they don't get used.
Kevin
So-
Smith does have that really interesting, like when he talks about the Snoogans,
Yeah.
where he's like, "Where did that come from?" He's like, it came from Muse. Like Muse would say this, and then this word would morph into this word, and then this word would morph in, like, and then it's just like, nah.
And that's how languages are invented.
Yeah.
So it's just interesting when you think about it and someone says, oh, that's wrong or right. But it's like, well, that's the accepted or the majority of the acceptance, but it's all made up. So
Yeah.
yeah.
But yeah, I mean, look at Shakespeare.
Oh, prime example.
All the words.
Joe's
he-
like, I'd rather not.
Yeah.
all the. I
please
mean,
don't.
I just Googled it. So words invented by Shakespeare: bandit, critic, dauntless, dwindle, elbow.
Elbow.
Yeah, lackluster, lonely,
Oh, I use lackluster a lot.
skim milk, swagger.
The kids use that. Well,
Yeah.
they
Isn't
don't
that
anymore.
amazing? So here is one of the,
And, and then he gave new meaning to words by adding the prefix un. So he coined unaware, uncomfortable, undress, unearthly, and
That's
unreal.
crazy.
right?
That's awesome. But
Like
that's
one of
wild.
the most revered writers of all time, and he just made stuff up, and it became widely used.
That is kind of cool.
So,
Interesting.
so they
But
all
yeah,
get
so
together.
I honestly thought that this
Yeah.
was going to, and it does eventually, but I thought it was going to be Abigail and Joey against the team, which it kind of does end up that way. But just from the interactions that she's like, I promise I'm not going to let them hurt you. And she stands by that promise throughout the movie. She stops Frank, who is Dan Stevens, from
Yeah, she does everything really.
until she shoots her in the head.
Yeah,
It's kind of
but that's when she's being attacked by her.
Fair.
You know.
But I do
yeah.
think that's interesting because the spoilers again, but there's a ongoing thing with the pinky promise, and I won't let anyone hurt you. But I thought when she shot her, that was over because technically, I know she didn't kill her, but she still got hurt.
Right.
Like
Yeah.
once you shoot her, that's done. And
Yeah.
to call back that, I thought, I mean, I get it, but I'm like, but you shot her in the
Well,
head.
I-
Like,
I
it's-
think the
but when
pinky-
you get the pinky promise at the end, I also think it's a moment of like, is that real
Yep.
or is she
That's right.
manipulating her?
Because she does
Be-
manipulate her the entire time.
Yeah.
So it is that moment where she does.
Gotcha.
You
Okay.
know. Yeah. So our characters are. They want. Esposito kind of says, "Don't. We're just going to call you," and he basically calls them all the Rat
they're
Pack.
kidnapping a little girl whose dad is some kind of rich and
They don't
famous
know.
person. Well, but they're ransoming her, so you know that he's
Yeah.
a rich. I'm just saying, their dad is a rich person, and they're going to get a ransom, so that's why they need to keep her for 24 hours. He'll surely pay up within then. Everyone can go their separate ways. But the mystery is who is this
who
guy?
is who is? But they also, I do like that they won't use anybody's names.
I liked that they didn't call the black guy Sammy. That's what I liked.
I do too.
That was definitely like when he started going through the names, I was like, ooh,
I'm like,
And-
oh,
easy.
that's- careful.
it's a little on the nose.
And in someone online, they gave that a criticism, not a major one, but they're like, shouldn't he have been Sammy because of Sammy Davis? And I'm like,
Yeah.
but
It's also a little on the nose. I would have liked maybe a joke about the fact that even him going.
It's the Mr. Pink joke.
Yeah, thank you for not calling me Sammy.
Right.
Yeah.
Frank Sinatra's the leader, and that's who Dan Stevens was.
Oh, these are all Rat Pack names?
These are all Rat
I
Pack names.
completely
Frank,
missed that.
Yeah.
Okay, well,
I was like, I don't think it corresponds.
The ones that probably messed you up were Joey.
Yeah.
Because that's Joey Bishop.
Joey Bishop.
okay.
And then Don Rickles was like an honorary member.
Yeah, and they were friends, but they weren't in the...
Why wouldn't you call one of the girls Angie?
That's what I
Angie
thought. Angie Dickinson?
Yeah.
Because Mr. Warmth wasn't in the Rat Pack, so he was...
Yeah,
friend.
but Don Rickles was...
I love that story with the... Hey, Frank.
Don Rickles tells
Or
somebody...
no, he's like, hey, Don, can't you see him?
Can't you see I'm eating?
You're mean? Oh, my... That
With
is
a girl.
That's a great joke.
That's such a great moment.
Don Rickles is kind of one of my favorite comedians.
He's a
because
legend.
he was so good. He's so good
Some
at
of his
just
stuff's
being...
a little hard to listen to. I mean,
I
it
mean,
was
you
of
gotta
its
look at the time.
I get it. I'm just saying,
Yeah.
you talk about things holding up. I mean, a modern audience and with modern ears and sensibilities, it's hard.
But he was still working...
I mean,
right? Like
until
until he died.
Yeah.
He was Potato Head.
Mr. Potato.
Oh, that's right. He was Mr. Potato Head.
But yeah, Mr. Warmth. I went back and listened to and watched almost all his stuff recently. He's so funny. He's so quick. His late night appearances are incredible.
Well, and Carson was kind of in that crew too. Like he wasn't part of the pack, but
he was
was
in
definitely
with them because there's a famous Rat Pack
in St. Louis
that they filmed in St. Louis.
Yeah.
Where I think it was Joey Bishop.
No,
make it.
Oh yeah,
And
Yes.
Carson filled it.
Oh, did he really?
It was
and
like,
Carson hosts it.
If you can find it, it's
out there. It's easy to get now.
amazing.
I think. But it's like they filmed it at
the Keel.
Was
the
it
old
Keel?
the old Keel?
Okay.
Yeah.
And it was like a fundraiser for something, and it's all of them. But I think no Joey Bishop, but
Johnny Carson's
but
the
Johnny
MC.
Carson. But it filmed in St. Louis, and it aired locally on
Channel 9.
on Channel 9, the PBS affiliate KETC, and it was lost for years. And then
Somebody found it.
Yeah, somebody found it.
So who is Peter in the Rat
Peter
Pack?
Lawford.
Peter Lawford.
Okay, see, I didn't really. Okay.
And he's another one who's kind of like, if you ever look at like that infamous Rat Pack poster,
Yeah.
I don't think he's on it.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's-
or if he is, he's the one where you're like, who's that?
Who's that guy?
Yeah.
I know Frank Sinatra, Dean Martin, Sammy Davis Jr.
Was it Peter Lawford? Like he was married to a Kennedy, wasn't he?
Oh, is that right?
I think so.
And Joey Bishop was like the number 4.
Yeah, I know Joey Bishop. I know, but I didn't connect that one.
Yeah, and then Don Rickles.
Gotcha. Okay.
The
So I
poster,
give 'em all their
the poster
names.
that I've got is the one that has Joey Bishop, where they're all playing pool. That's the one I've
Ah,
got.
the pool, and not
Yeah.
in front of the Sands.
Not the
sign.
Sands, yeah.
Because his name's Joey, so of course.
He was the brother-in-law of John F. Kennedy and Robert F. Kennedy.
So he married the
one who
sister?
died, not the weird one that's running for president.
That's
and
Junior.
but yeah,
What a... All
So-
right, that's neither
so
here nor there.
they all
Like,
get-
You guys got enough hate on that last episode.
yeah.
So they.
It's just real quick. It even says on Wikipedia that he is said as that he was famous for being famous.
That's pretty good. That's pretty good.
So they are all trying to figure out, like, they're killing time. They're kind of bored. They're just drinking and hanging out, and they're trying to get more information about each other. And they're like, no.
Angus Cloud does the thing that, it would have been kind of funny if he had nailed every single one, because he is kind of supposed to be this dope.
Yeah.
But he gets them all wrong. And then Melissa Barrera steps up and does not get any of them wrong. She picks them off kind of one by one.
But why doesn't Army Medic have that much knowledge to do that? I wish that she had, like, again, in Clue, they start picking apart people. And I just wish that Melissa Barrera's character was something a little bit more FBI, whatever, but a profiler. You know what I mean? I didn't really get why I guess she was just good at it, but
I think that's what it was. I think it's kind of...
if she was in on it, she would know the information. I was waiting for some
That's
kind
a good...
of
that would be a good little
twist, right?
Yeah.
I was waiting for, and because this is so similar to Clue, I'm looking for, well, who is really
Right.
in on it? And we kind of find out later the reveal. I mean, the Dan Stevens reveal, that is another twisty Clue type thing where it's
Well,
like
he wasn't...
he
what do you mean?
worked for, he was an undercover cop
Oh,
in
yeah,
the
yeah,
operation
yeah.
of
Yeah.
Dracula's operation.
Well, it is kind of a bummer is you don't find out why the Marine was there, and you don't find out why Angus Cloud was there.
Yeah.
Like, they're both gone before they get the reveal as to, like, you were this person,
Yeah.
you did this. And I was like, well, what about those guys?
Yeah.
What happened to them? Yeah, so she breaks it down. We find out that Dan Stevens is a disgraced New York detective who got a little too close to the mob and started to live that life, and then tried to turn on... Well, there's a reason all these people are there. The gal from Lisa Frankenstein is like
Katherine Newton.
Katherine Newton is a hacker. Angus Cloud is the wheel man.
Oh, sorry, yeah, he's the wheel
Kevin
man.
Durand is the muscle,
Mm-hmm.
and then you've got the sniper who is
Marine.
the other guy.
Yeah.
And
She says Semper Fi.
well, I do like that he's like, don't. She's like, all right, I'll just
say
leave it.
Semper Fi.
And that's good enough. And I do like, and even there's a romantic tension between those two. And I was like, are they
Which ones?
Melissa Barrera and the Marine?
When they kind of team up, yeah. And then I also saw it was
Kevin Durand and Katherine Newton.
It was Katherine Newton and Angus Cloud at first, and then
It was not. It was Angus Cloud.
Well,
Katherine
yeah, I mean, he
Newton
was
wanted
firing
nothing
her.
to do
well,
with
in the
it.
beginning, I thought she was kind of, it was just kind of a flirty
Yeah.
thing, and then it became nothing later. But then it was like the Kevin Durand. And
Yeah.
then I like their relationship because they're both really funny. I thought in this movie those two were.
He's also Kevin Durand. I think is one of those guys that you recognize him, but you
yeah.
don't realize how funny he is because he's usually kind of plays this character.
So he started as a stand-up.
Is that right?
That's why he's so funny.
Oh, that makes sense.
You know,
The comedic timing makes sense.
He went on tour and was, opening for stand-ups and everything. So I don't think he never ever made it that big in the stand-up world, but he was touring with other people and doing that thing and became an actor. So.
That is, it's almost like the who's the guy that got Matt Rife,
yeah,
where it's like too good looking to be.
that's a name I haven't heard in a long time. He
There's a-
really fell off, didn't he?
There's a reason.
He just had a Netflix special, didn't he?
That's
He did,
what,
but
that's
that's
what
when
got
he
him in
fell
a lot
off.
of trouble. But it's like you're too pretty to be a stand-up comedian. Like, oh, you gotta look a certain way.
Yeah, but that's why his audience was
correct.
85% female.
Yes, that's right. So, and things are going fairly easy, right? Like they kind of say all the characters kind of go their separate ways.
They're just killing time. But Melissa Barrera checks in on the little girl.
Right.
And she does the thing, I'm scared. Can you take the blindfold off? Okay. And then Melissa Barrera says, are the handcuffs hurting you? I'll take those off. Which, again, we know from the trailers,
Don't do
which
that.
sucks, though, right? Because if we didn't know, we'll just say, and there was danger there.
Yeah.
That would have been great. It would have been like, oh, okay, I take
Of
off.
course,
She's nice.
She's an 8-year-old girl.
No danger.
Yeah, none whatsoever.
But she's playing her. She's playing Melissa Barrera, and we learn later why and how. But,
Right.
But she's getting information, and,
Yes.
and it's like, what's your real name? And I can't tell you that. Do you have a kid? Okay, what's his name? And starting to get all this info.
And then so she leaves, and then Dan Stevens kind of sneaks up there, doesn't realize that her blindfold is off.
Well, because Melissa Barrera says to Dan Stevens, her dad's someone. She wanted to tell me, I didn't ask.
Yeah,
And then
yeah.
so he's just like, whatever, no information. But then he sneaks off and is like, who? Well, he freaks out because didn't know she didn't have a blindfold. But then he's like, who is your dad? Tell me he's got a gun at her. And it's,
Right. And we find out that her dad is this like mythical crime boss, and to the point where even Dan Stevens is like, I'm done. Like, no, thank you. I want nothing to do with this. Let's get out of here.
spoilers.
Some of them don't even believe it's a real person.
Yeah.
Right.
Right.
But
And
Dan Stevens used to work in his operation, so he
it's
knows.
like, well, I do like that little semi-reveal where they talk about the lieutenants in his organization and they were murdered. And
in grisly ways.
yes, and then they're like, "Oh, that's not true." And I do like that Dan Stevens is like, "Bull," like that is absolutely true.
Yeah.
We get this little moment between Katherine Newton and Angus Cloud where he's still trying to fire on her.
Well,
and
he's surprised her. He scares her.
yeah,
He puts on a creepy mask.
that was a good jump scare
That was
because you don't see him.
that was the only jump scare I really remember. But
You know, it was a good one. And then he walks away. He's walking into Bruce Wayne's kitchen apparently. And this is where you kind of hear a noise, but
this
you don't
reminds
really.
me of Evil Dead. When doesn't Ash get dragged down the stairs or something? Whenever the monster's on the stairs. Or
Maybe
whatever.
when he's into the basement.
Or at least I think it's creepy. Going into a basement down a stair, just
in a house that you don't know.
Creepy. That is one of the scariest. It's that you don't know. It's the
Yeah.
darkness.
I also hate like the one thing that I do is like, and it's probably honestly it's from Evil Dead is wooden stairs.
That's what
but it's just
specifically what I'm talking
it's
about.
just
Yep.
it's just wood.
They could be under there grabbing you with a hand. It's just the vertical. And
No, thank you. I remember my sister, one of her houses when she was in college, she had this house in Columbia that had it had a basement, but there was no concrete.
Yeah.
It was just dirt. And I was like, are you crazy? I'm not going down there. There's no way. She's like, go check it out. I was
Where
like,
they bury the bodies.
yeah, right. So I was like, no, I'm not going down there. And I would not go down there.
Well, he goes down there.
He goes down there, and then there's a sound like you hear
A
often.
rat, right? He sees a rat.
Yeah, he
He's
sees
like,
a rat, and then
pack of
and then
them.
you hear
Named
And I do like that
Frank and-
Kevin Durant's like, oh, like the Rat Pack.
Yeah.
You hear the rat get smushed, and then we see Angus Cloud get pulled away.
So that's a Dracula thing, right? Sometimes he has to eat rats like on the ship and stuff
So
to
it
keep
was
himself alive.
more like Renfield. Like Renfield was forced to eat like bugs and rats.
Okay. I thought, but don't they talk about it in Interview with the Vampire? I thought it was a vampire thing where sometimes they have to drink the blood of rats, or they didn't want to. One vampire that didn't want to drink human blood.
I think I think it's the equivalent
alive.
of like if we ate bugs to stay alive.
Oh,
like,
sure.
You can do it.
Oh, maybe that is Brad Pitt. Maybe that's Brad Pitt that does
Yeah,
that.
because
Maybe.
he was not killing people, so he was eating.
Don't we see it in that that ship movie?
Last
that,
Voyage of the Demeter.
There we go.
Yeah.
I think Lestat is like, what are you doing? Like, eat some real people.
Like,
because
no.
Brad Pitt did not want to kill humans, so he was eating rats.
That ending sequence
He's a vegan.
when
he jumps out at the
Christian
car.
Slater.
Yeah,
That's good
it's great,
stuff.
right?
That's great.
But I'm thinking these guys are pulling different homages. I'm thinking the rat thing.
That
and
could have been.
You hear the noise of her killing it.
Yeah.
Probably.
So Katherine Newton comes downstairs. She sees Angus like sitting in a chair, but a pretty good gag where his head just like falls backwards.
I like that she put it back on to mess with them, right? Like it's decapitated, but it's actually sitting on his shoulders.
Yes. Everybody shows up, and now we start to get. Everybody looks at the wound on Angus Cloud, and they start talking about this mythical hitman that Abigail's dad has employed, and even Melissa Barrera is like, "You could tell me that's not the same? Like it's not the same thing."
And I like how they're like to Katherine Newton. They're like, "Why were you down here?" And she looks at him. She's like, "You think I did
Yeah,
this?
look at me. You think I could do that?"
Yeah.
Yeah, and then honestly, I think if I remember right, this is kind of where all hell starts to break loose. All of our characters go to see Abigail. They're all in the room together, and they're freaking out. And Katherine Newton has a great line where all of our main characters are arguing.
I think before that, the Marine dies. I think before they all go in
you're
there,
totally right. They split up.
Melissa Barrera is with him, and he's like, "Hey, we're gonna watch each other's back because they're both military."
Yeah.
She was like an army medic. He's the Marine, and so he's like,
Oh, you know what it is? All of the house shuts down when they're like, "That's it, we're out of here." They go to like get out,
because
and
it's daytime.
it's right.
So all the windows get locked. Everything gets locked up, so no light can come in.
Correct.
Because light is very dangerous to these. It's not like you're smoking and catch on fire.
The other thing about radio silence is they love blowing people up.
They combust when they get hit with light. We find out later. But so he's walking away. The Marine
and you hear a sound, and then Melissa Barrera
up to
turns around, and you
face
just
is,
see
like,
you just see his body, like his body's just there, and she kind of like the camera pans around, and like half of his face is gone.
Good effects.
Yeah.
I will say these guys do love their practical effects with blood and messes and gore. You know, they're
goop.
Yeah, they're doing it the right way. It's not a lot of CG.
No,
that you can see at least.
Yeah, they literally blew up a vampire.
Yeah,
at the end of this movie. Yeah,
but it's messy.
Rightfully so.
You know? But it's messy. It's not CG messy.
I think the explosion.
There's muck and stuff.
There is muck. There's that last scene.
I'm sure it's sweetened.
Yeah, when she like kicks like the brain matter off of her, or the intestines like through. I was like, that's a good.
But you know, that's the difference is with a lot of the modern CG stuff, because it's expensive to film and it's messy. They got to reset things.
You get one shot.
But with CG, it looks really fake. There's no weight to it, and so I appreciate what these guys are doing.
No, I agree.
Yeah.
So this is you're right. They see him, then they go see Abigail. They're fighting, they're arguing, and
that's when Abigail reveals herself. She basically
breaks her
arms and her fingers to get out of the cuffs, and then
Katherine Newton's
heals.
like, what?
Guys.
And this is the big reveal is that she's a vampire, and we find out this Vargas character is Abigail. Like her father has sent her out to take out all of his bad people.
She's not really a little girl, just like that other horror movie.
But I think I think that she is, because she says that my dad turned, like this is where my dad.
She was turned as a little girl 200 years ago. That's what. She's not a little girl.
Did they say that?
She's Kirsten Dunst. I mean, she's trapped.
She's like frozen in time.
Right,
at that
right.
They
age.
don't age when you get turned as a vampire. You don't age.
No, I know
she's
that.
Stuck.
But do they give a time frame as to how old she is? Do they say? I'm honestly asking. I don't remember.
Yeah. I mean, they say that she's. There's something in the movie that alludes to she's not a little girl. She's playing.
Okay.
She's an old vampire.
She has a line at some point about having done this for 200 years.
Yeah. She's bored. She's messing with them at this point.
I got you.
See, now I like the fact that she is kind of a goofy little goober. I like it when the monsters and the characters just mess with the main people, and so
goofy little goober.
I think it's funny that she is using her time. She's just so bored.
Yeah,
She's
she was like,
I'm gonna mess with these people that are somehow connected to my dad's operation.
Right. So she takes out. I guess she doesn't take out anybody here. She does.
I was surprised. So she takes off Kevin Durand's cross necklace and stabs him, but not fatally.
But the necklace isn't big
it's
enough.
a little one.
Yeah.
So she's stabbing him.
She bites Katherine Newton.
She bites Katherine Newton.
And I do, even where she's like, what does this mean? Like, am I going to become a vampire? And Abigail's like, oh, I have no idea.
Melissa Barrera shoots her in the head, and you see that she like wipes the blood away, and there's no bullet.
That was a
wound.
good little gag.
Yeah. I wish she grabbed the bullet or something, or the bullet hit the ground. I was like, where's the bullet? It went through.
No, Dan Stevens shoots her in the head. She gets up. Melissa Barrera shoots her twice in the chest.
Okay.
But you're right. She does stand up, and then she wipes the wound. Like the wound is gone.
Yeah.
So all of our characters take off, and then they end up. Basically, they're like, what do we know about vampires? And I do like, what are we talking about? Twilight vampires? Are we talking about
and you've already
True Blood
seen
vampires?
that at least two things that you associate with vampires don't work, right?
We see
That's
that.
right. The garlic.
The garlic doesn't work.
This is after. This is before that, because they're trying to figure out like how do we kill a vampire, and they were like, well, is it the True Blood vampire?
That's
is
right.
it
Once
this?
they know she's a vampire,
Right.
they go stock up on the cross.
Dan Stevens
She'll
has
grab
one
the
of the.
cross.
No, that's next.
Is it?
That's when our teams split up.
Okay.
because
thinking
she
the
walks-
same thing that
Yeah.
they were like, we have all this, but I guess they confront her later.
They do.
Okay.
I do love that Katherine Newton. It's one of my favorite lines in the movie, where Dan Stevens picks up the bag of onions and he was like, "What is this?" And she was like, "Garlic." He goes, "These are onions," and just throws them down. I don't know, like just.
Well, you got to figure garlic isn't going to work if the vampire is keeping it in their home, right?
You would assume. You would assume that's
One would
true.
assume.
Well, I guess they don't realize it's the vampire's home, though.
Yet, I guess that's. Well, they start seeing.
Angus Cloud very early on when they're hanging out goes and sees all the like murals on the wall
Of her.
creepy vampire stuff. So I guess he knows something's up, but he does not live long enough to
No.
convey that information.
He does not. So yeah, now our team split up, and this is where we get Kevin Durant gets stabbed a bunch of times with his cross. So now we know the crosses don't work. Abigail picks up the garlic and
She,
just
like,
like smells it, and she was
and-
like, "I love this smell," and
Yeah.
tosses that. Okay,
So now
garlic
we know
doesn't-
she's an Italian vampire.
we put it in everything.
Or Sicilian.
Yeah, both are fine.
Yeah.
I use it all the time. And we never really get to see the stake because nobody gets close enough to use it. It gets used on Dan Stevens in his thigh.
So he is not a vampire.
He is not. I was like, you're not walking. Like I have a scar that goes from my kneecap to like up my half because I blew my quadricep out. Brother, you are
yeah.
hobbling.
The guy that got stabbed in the chest multiple times had to carry him down the stairs.
Yeah, that's
so-
true. Yeah, right. So we know that we don't know what's going to hurt her because bullets aren't working, crosses aren't working, garlic's not working. She's too
I wish
fast.
there had been more discussion about, like, they never really seemed to doubt that the wooden stakes would work.
Sure.
And I was like, shouldn't you have some sort of conversation about, will this actually work? Because they just tried two very famous things and neither of them worked.
It's a running gag in the Monster Squad. They're trying to figure out what kills a vampire.
I tried to block that out.
You should. It's great.
And I was very successful.
So-
until just now.
Melissa Barrera basically says what did work was when I tranquilized her, and they're like, well, she's been messing with us this whole time, and she's like, she's a medic, and says, no, her heart rate went down. I know that worked. So you guys need to distract her long enough for me to get the tranquilizer.
Right. So in that time frame, they all kind of meet back up in this middle, I don't know, like foyer, I guess is what you could call it. And this is where we get an idea of how strong Kevin Durand is, because he kind of like tackles her, and he's the only one that's able to hold her down. The vial has been knocked away, so she's got to, do the little. I can't reach it with my tippy fingers.
Which, after seeing all of this, I kind of think she was just letting him and messing with them. It appears to me
Yeah,
she's
I would
strong
agree.
enough to break
yeah,
down
yeah.
metal cages and walls and
Yeah.
stuff. No matter how big and strong he is, she has vampire strength.
Yeah,
It's
when you see her just bust out of that cage, like she's
messing with them all.
whole-
She can
it
do
was
anything.
It was
Yeah.
always a game
Yes.
for her.
Yeah.
So they trank her. They put her in the cage, and this is where we get the reveal of who these people really are. Katherine Newton is a hacker who would steal money from her parents' trust fund, and then it just kind of got bigger and bigger and bigger until she started stealing money from the mob boss. And I like where she's like, "I'll give it back, I swear." He's like, too late. We find out that Dan Stevens is the undercover cop who got a little bit too close and maybe tried to like orchestrate a coup against the bad guy. Does that sound
I don't
about
know.
right?
I just know that he got in too deep. He enjoyed the life a little bit. He was undercover and then got corrupt.
Right.
Yeah.
And then we find out that Kevin Durand was the muscle for a Canadian mafia guy that maybe killed some of Abigail's dad's people. And then we find out that Melissa Barrera, who had a back injury while she was deployed, got hooked on morphine.
Became an underground doctor.
I took it as she was a doctor. Like that's, I mean, a field medic is one thing, but an underground doctor is a little bit different. But I don't know.
Well, she was a medic, and she, you're not looking for a license or whatever when you got to patch up people with bullet wounds.
Yeah.
So she started working for shady people, and the dad is one of the people, and she did not save a very high up person.
Right. So I think they said somebody very important too.
Yeah.
So I don't
the
know.
operation,
I thought it was gonna be.
it.
Abigail's mom. That's what I thought we were looking at.
I think it's just one of the big
Could've
guys. She screwed. They see it. And
she nicked an artery rather than pulling out a bullet because she was high.
Because she was high. Yeah.
Um,
Because she got high.
That's right.
Because she got high.
And then there's a scene where Katherine Newton ends up. This was gross. This was a gross scene when she falls into the pool.
Yeah.
That is just bodies. Decomposing bodies. The water
Bodies,
was
bodies,
like
bodies,
Well,
is what I
that's
said.
very true.
That's
She
what she
wasn't
said
in that,
too.
was it? Was she in that?
I don't think so, but
Okay.
it just reminded me.
Yeah.
Like bodies.
Because she says it.
Yeah.
But, you know.
Yeah. So I'm just like.
So
bodies.
this is where Abigail says, my dad, you were right, because Joey kind of calls her out and says your dad doesn't love you. He will, you're doing whatever you can to make him care about you. And we find out that Abigail has been luring all of these different like enemies of her dad to kill them in this house to get his attention, and it's just not working.
This is a real Kristen Stewart, Ed Harris situation going on here.
A little bit,
I mean,
especially at the end of the movie.
She knows where all the bodies
That's
are buried.
right. That's right.
All that.
Well, yeah,
He
because
doesn't-
she buried him.
Yeah.
So this is where she offers a deal, and she says, if one of you lets me out of here, I will let one of you leave. So Kevin Durand's like, "Okay, I'm doing it." And she's, this is a great, I like this scene too, where she's like, "Don't touch that lever or I'm going to shoot you."
Yeah, Melissa Barrera.
And he's like, "I don't have a choice." And she was like, "I'm telling you." And he goes and she shoots him like in the side. Doesn't hurt him, like doesn't want to kill him.
I've been shot.
She's like, "I grazed
Yeah.
you. Like, come here.
Let me
I'll
go
help."
patch you
Like, yeah,
up.
right.
And then he says, "I'm like getting shot hurts." Like he's very funny little
Yeah.
lines in this movie. He's like such a big, lovable.
A goober.
Yeah, he's great.
So now Abigail kind of corners Dan Stevens and says, "Look,
Yeah, they're left alone. So
I
they're-
will let you out of here, but you have to, I'll tell you where the secret passageway is, then you got to let me out." She tells him, he's like, "Oh, I'm not telling you anything." And she's like, "Of course you're not." And she busts the door down and kind of leaves on her own. Our characters end up in a library. She tells them to look for what is it? There was the book. It was an Agatha
And then
Christie.
there were nothing.
And then there were none.
And then there were none.
Which I don't think would have been called that.
I was thinking the same thing.
It's that one.
That book would
Okay.
not have been
book
called
that was
that.
like,
Yeah.
that they
If
had
that
to change the
old-
title. They
We won't
changed
go
the
into
title
that.
of because it was offensive, and then
they changed
they
it
changed
again.
it to a new offensive title and had to change it again. Yeah.
Right. So they're in this room, and is this where Abigail gets her arm blown off? Is this where she gets hit with either way, she gets hit by sunlight and her arm explodes. And this is the first time that she's been hurt. And Melissa Barrera's like, "Okay, if we just stay here in the sunlight, like she can't touch us." Right?
Yeah.
Okay. And then is this where Dan Stevens... Oh,
We have to split up at some point.
Yes,
'cause
that's right.
Sammy's gotta get turned.
Because they figure out the reset, right? Catherine
she
Newton
goes,
figures out.
it's all computer controlled. If I can just reset the windows and the door locks, we'll get out of here. So
Right.
they're going to find the main
This
power
is
source.
the From Dusk Till Dawn moment for me. Is
Yeah.
when they're so it's Kevin Durand and Katherine Newton. They're walking their own way. If you remember in From Dusk Till Dawn, spoilers. If you haven't seen that movie, seriously, like this is a fairly big spoiler for the movie.
You had your chance.
Yeah.
So.
When Tom Savini gets bitten, he covers it up, and then we see him change. This is the same scene where Katherine Newton has been bitten. We don't know what's going to happen to her, and then all of a sudden the
It
wound
heals.
heals, and you're just like, "Oh man!"
And you can see Abigail is in her room or something, but she's
in
like,
she's in like the dancing place,
Yeah.
and she takes over.
Yeah.
She takes her over. This is a weird scene, which the whole dancing thing.
Is
gets-
that, I mean, I was gonna say it was like she was her familiar, but she's a vampire, not like just a servant.
No,
I
she's
don't-
a-
But it's that control, like
Yeah,
right? Because
she
when you have
took
a
over.
familiar, you can control them and make them do things. What
I mean,
in vampire lore, like you're like Renfield, like you're familiar. The vampires.
I was
have
thinking the
familiars
familiars
that
from
they-
Blade, where they were like humans that worked for the vampires during the daytime.
Yeah, no, I mean more like we saw specifically at Dracula, Renfield.
That's true. Yeah.
He controls him. He has him under like a hypnosis kind of a thing.
Yeah,
but,
yeah.
But she's an actual turned vampire, but she has that control over.
And
her.
she's not Katherine Newton anymore. She is Abigail.
Through her,
Yeah. So she kills Kevin Durand, and I do like this scene where she kind of leads the Dan Stevens and Melissa Barrera into this hallway.
Yeah. Dances. You didn't mention the big ballet dance.
It's very
back,
weird.
Cuts back and forth between. It's definitely the most like abstract part of the movie is Abigail and Katherine Newton. It cuts back and forth. They're doing the same ballet routine, and it cuts. I thought it was kind of cool looking, but it is. It didn't push the story along. It was just there.
I like the gag that Katherine Newton is kind of smoking.
Yeah,
like when she's kind of in the sunlight.
She doesn't have any control over it,
right.
So it really is Abigail still controlling her and doing the dance and making her.
Yeah,
but yeah, she's like getting burnt because Abigail doesn't care about her.
No.
Yeah.
And I do like this line where she's got her back. Katherine Newton has her back to Dan Stevens and Melissa Barrera. She's like, Melissa Barrera kind of says, "Come to us," and she was like, "No, I don't think so." And she turns around and we get I think her vampire makeup was
really good,
crazy scary. It was very good.
I thought she did a great job as like the evil, scary vampire.
Yeah,
I thought she was more threatening, but maybe it's just because the other one's a little girl.
Right.
But she did a good job.
So they trick her into going into sunlight. This is where we get the first look of like what will really happen when you go into the sunlight. You literally explode.
Is it she holds up the mirror, that tray, that the Chekhov's tray?
Yes, and she explodes, which I thought was like, oh, like that's a lot. Then we find the doorway. A secret doorway opens up. They walk down it. There's Giancarlo Esposito. He turns around. He's a vampire. And he turned.
I thought he was making meth down there.
He's got people for that.
Yeah, that's right. We find out that Abigail turned him because he was going to he was actually making a play for her dad. And Dan,
like taking over the business.
Yes,
he wasn't hitting on him.
No. He wanted the business for himself.
I mean, it's okay.
Yeah, I don't.
As long as they're all both into it.
They're immortal, right? Like things get boring after a while.
I'm woke like that.
Trust me, the comments have told us as much.
Yes.
So he says to Dan Stevens, he's like, "Let me turn you, and we can take over the whole operation, and you'll be immortal."
Yes, and he was like, "Fine," and I thought that he was saying "fine" so that Melissa Barrera and him had like an upper hand. No.
Yeah, I thought that at
That
first
is
too.
not
That
what
he's like,
happens.
I'm going to do this so I can save people.
I thought that was good. That was a good heel turn, though.
It is a good heel
You
turn.
already know that he's been at odds with Melissa Barrera. He's not a good guy, and obviously he's corrupt and went undercover and then loved that life. So he's
Right.
You know, he's
And now he's a
into
vampire.
Power and
And
everything.
that
So-
throws up a lot of blood.
Yeah.
It was pretty gross.
And they did the thing. This was like this is how I think an Interview with a Vampire they turned them, right? They would bite them and then drink my blood. That's how Brad Pitt turned, or
I've
Tom Cruise
never
turned.
seen that.
You've never seen Interview with the Vampire?
I have not.
I've
I know
never
that.
seen it either.
I know that
Oh
ending
my,
sequence.
You guys have never. It's a good movie. I always liked it.
That's fine.
But that's fine. You know that ending. So you
Oh,
just
yeah.
know the ending sequence.
Yeah.
It's a lot better when you watch the whole movie.
I know the
and then
premise
it
of
happens.
the movie. I know what it is. But
Okay, but that's how they turn them in Interview with the Vampire. Probably other lore too, but
Right.
it's a very much the exact same process.
And he turns and he attacks Giancarlo, and kills him.
I liked that he went full heel though, right? Like,
Oh, yeah.
he didn't go do that to work
Well,
with him.
initially you think, right? Like you're like, all right, he took out the one bad guy. Now we're gonna go get the other one. He's like,
But,
nope.
but he's like, nope, you tricked me or whatever, right? When he was mad at him for something. What was he mad at him for?
because he set him up,
yeah, whatever. When he kills him, he's like, that's for
setting me up.
Yeah.
Abigail shows up because he's about to kill Melissa Barrera, and they go at it, and he is stronger, which I do kind of call bullshit on. Like, if Abigail has been a vampire for 200 years, she should be stronger.
The only thing I took that from was that he is an adult, so his strength got multiplied to vampire adult versus vampire child, because her body, all things relative. I know that an older vampire should be more powerful, which she was, like powers.
Right.
but
Yeah. She had more knowledge of how to utilize her powers.
That's true.
But
He
in
got
terms
like
of just
brute
strength.
That's fair.
Yeah.
That's
So
which is why. So he bites her and almost drains her to death's doorstep, and that's the part where, to me, seeing his strength, it's like he could have just pulled her head off or something. I thought it was a little bit. He seemed underpowered when he fought Abigail, but she was knocking on death's door,
Right.
again, I guess, so to speak.
Yeah.
So I thought that was a little mismatched, because it's like
I can see that.
he was healthy and powerful, and she was drained.
Mm-hmm.
So
they end up back in the library.
and somehow Abigail and Melissa Barrera have a Joey, I would just call her Joey. I
Yeah.
always use her name. Abigail and Joey have a conversation, right? Doesn't she say
She
something
says like we'll work
and-
together, and I was like, oh, they're gonna turn her.
She catches her. Dan Stevens throws her off the
That's
top
right. You're
staircase
right.
a couple stories down, and Abigail slides on, catches her, and says, "I'm weak. I need your help to fight him, and I'll let
If
you go."
if we beat him, then I'll let you go. And I was like, well, she's gonna bite her. Now we're gonna have. It's gonna be the ending of the Joe Johnston Wolfman all over again, where it's vampire on vampire.
Oh,
Hey,
Is that the porn parody?
that's what Blockbuster had.
Yeah.
Yeah, nice shirt last week, by the way.
oh, thank you.
Yeah.
Did the Wolfman have nards in that parody?
Always do. They're man. They're men. They're wolf
Well,
man.
I saw King Kong, and he's a man, and there weren't huge nuts.
Who said he was a
swinging
man?
around. What?
They
Who's-
refer to King Kong as a man.
Who did?
They always use he
I
pronouns.
honestly
for King
have
Kong.
no idea.
Well, I didn't see anything else either. Okay, that is this is a tangent. But when you see those movies with huge animals walking around,
There should be some
and they have
giant dongs.
nothing. That's just weird. Like
I
anatomically,
think it'd be
that's-
weirder to see a bunch of
Both are
It would
equally
be
weird.
dongs.
It would be weird
Kong
because you've never
dongs.
seen it, because generally because of censors and stuff, you don't see that stuff. But it's a huge animal.
Could you imagine
Watchmen
it-
was weird. Watchmen was
Watchmen
weird
was weird.
when you see the big blue
Yeah.
just swinging
And
there.
I get that it's in the comic. I understand
yeah,
it,
but it's still weird.
but it's-
and so like I think
Could you
that's
imagine King Kong's nuts like knocking over buildings?
yeah, that's
Like that.
I don't think he should just be a eunuch. Like, because I mean, to me,
Can you see like a gorilla's when they're just walking around?
Oh,
I don't feel like I've ever.
maybe,
I feel like that's
My
a
eyes
good.
don't naturally drift there.
I don't know.
I just think it's weird when big animals are walking around and they have to do all the functions
The
and
old-
everything,
the
but they
old,
make them into Ken dolls.
Kevin,
The
do you think it's
dinosaur
weird
bubbles.
or do you think it's disappointing?
I mean, they have to make the little Kongs. You know, like it
Yeah.
has to happen somehow.
I don't know.
It is
It's
true
strange.
though. There is a giant blue in Watchmen a lot.
So credit where credit's due. If
Yeah.
there's one thing he did, he kept it true.
but he didn't because he changed the ending. So whatever.
Well,
Abigail and Joey team up. Dan Stevens is just basically kicking the shit out of both of them.
yeah, and he's throwing Joey around and ends up. He almost impales her on the wooden stake that's like going through a
No,
a chair.
that was like a wrought iron. That was metal.
Oh, it was
Yeah, because
I saw
it-
a wooden handle or
There's a
something.
King Diamond.
Yeah.
I thought I saw maybe it was the handle.
It
but
could have been.
When I was looking at it,
It
I
looked
thought
like a
there was
fire
a wooden
poker.
part. And so what I thought she was going to do was pull him onto
That's what I thought we were gonna
and-
get too.
and do the stake and have him explode. But
We didn't.
kind of a nice head switch. You're waiting for that. And
Yeah, it was good. Basically, the two of them end up. So she does get bit. Joey does get bit by Dan Stevens, and I was like, "Well, here we go."
But
Like
he doesn't
this-
know how to turn people. So it was just a regular
That's
bite.
true. Yes, right.
Come to find out.
Well,
it's-
even well, I think she was gonna turn, but since they spoiler, okay, so they kill Dan Stevens. Dan Stevens dies. He explodes in a glorious like like explosion of blood and muck.
Yeah.
Okay, Kevin. So from Quora, it says a male gorilla's penis is about 4 to 6 centimeters long when erect.
Oh, jeez.
So
That's insane. How does that even work?
I don't know. You'd have to talk to the.
Couldn't
female.
tell you.
No wonder they're always so mad.
Yes.
Well, I guess in that case it's not as big of a
Okay,
deal then.
but like, he's a giant gorilla.
So that's going to be
it says
at least
this-
multiple inches.
It says the
Multiple
silverback gorilla will
inches.
have 3 to 5 females in his harem who only come on heat about once every 4 years.
Hey now, 4 years.
Jeez.
Well, I would be pissed.
Yeah. So if you got 5 of them, that's like
Yeah.
every 11 months.
Yeah, that's not. Oh, poor guy.
Yeah.
Ooh.
All right. Well,
Well, there we
that's
go.
more information than we need to know. But
So,
thank you.
so maybe not seeing Kong's dong
Maybe
makes,
it is there.
makes perfect sense.
It's in there. See,
I bet you it's in the.
Yeah.
the
sure.
graphic artist made
Yeah.
sure that it was there, but you'd have to zoom in at a
You
million.
know, Adam
times.
Wingard's like, you
Well,
put that.
That's why it's so important to get 4K.
That's the director's cut.
Yes.
Yeah, that's Wingard couldn't wait to put that.
Or
Giant,
director's uncut.
uncut. That's true. It
Yeah,
probably would be
because
uncut. That's fine.
I doubt King Kong has been circumcised.
No, you're probably right.
I'm just assuming he's not
it's-
Jewish.
I'm not Jewish.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Neither am I.
Yeah.
That's an American thing.
It is an American thing. They win. They blow up Dan Stevens.
And she does. Joey says, "Am I gonna turn into one?" And she goes, "Now that he's dead, no." But see,
that is vampire lore. Like the if you kill the vampire that created
Like
the,
that. It's like a
it's a domino
It's
effect.
like it's like an MLM but for vampires.
yes, right.
They're both blood suckers, right?
but I
But
would
like you
think
kill the vampire that created you, then you're relieved of your curse. That has been kind of like kicked around in lore before.
Okay.
So if you've got a lot of Scentsy stuff laying around your garage,
Yeah.
find Becky who sold it to you
Kill her.
and kill her, and
Goes
then
away.
you're free
Yeah,
of Amway.
That's right. That's right. It all goes away. It
Just
disappears.
Quick disclaimer: don't actually do
No,
that.
please don't
I
do
think
that.
we have to actually
Yes,
say that
yeah, do
just
not
in
do
case.
that.
But
You've
that
got
is-
a garage
that is
full
illegal.
of
if you have a
acai drink.
if you have a garage full of Scentsy, right? You're already making bad decisions because people just suggest things
Yeah.
to you.
Just
So
buy this.
really, to be responsible, we do have to put that asterisk
Yes,
on there
yes, yeah,
and
please.
say, don't actually
Real
go kill
spoilers
people.
does not condone the murdering of anybody.
DM us.
Yeah. Also,
We've got a
we can't,
list.
we can't put that on the internet because we will end up on a list.
Yeah. But shoot us a DM. Slide into our DMs. We'll let you know who you're allowed to
Right,
kill.
yeah, that's exactly right. And this to me felt like the ending of Ready or Not. Like this is kind of the same ending where Abigail reverts back to her human form. She lets Joey go, and she kind of, I do like the line where she was like, Jesus, like it's the line in Ready or Not, I think is like, she's smoking a cigarette and she was just like, in-laws. And like, that's how that movie kind of ends. And this one is
Like Knives Out.
yes, exactly.
Yeah.
And this one, I think Melissa Barrera is just like, good Lord.
Well,
and just
no,
walks
but that's
out
why
and-
you didn't. Dracula showed up. I mean, there's a
Oh,
huge
yeah, yeah,
part
yeah.
that you missed. She's like, okay, you're free to go now, and she goes to the door, and all of a sudden, boom!
But it kicks open and there's
It's
Dracula,
Matthew Good, the biggest stunt casting to ever happen on film.
the biggest movie star in the world,
Yeah,
the most recognizable sports figure.
man, that didn't age well, did it?
Hey.
I mean, she's around, but didn't quite hold up.
in that moment of time, it was accurate.
I'm just saying.
And now it is not.
She was going to star in Roadhouse.
She was, and then she lost that fight,
Yeah.
and they were like, "Never mind,
Nah.
we'll get the other guy."
We'll wait for a new technology to be invented before we make that movie.
That movie's so bad.
We'll wait for the star of Sunday in the Park with George to come and do it. He'll be a better athlete than Ronda Rousey.
I cannot believe how bad that movie is.
I want to see it.
That's
I'm gonna
fine.
Watch it.
It's
I
bad.
haven't watched it, and I don't think I will.
It's bad.
Ripley was really good on Netflix. I like that.
What's that?
I didn't realize that was a talented
Oh.
Mr. Ripley.
Yeah.
Is it a remake?
Adaptation? No, adaptation of the book.
Yeah. of the
Oh,
book.
okay.
Yeah.
I thought it was an alien thing at first. Every time I hear Ripley,
Yeah.
and it's just
That's
called Ripley.
that's coming in the
Yeah.
summer.
But I kept thinking it was something.
Oh,
Were they
yeah.
doing an alien?
No, it's
spin-off,
a
whatever?
talented Mr.
But
Ripley.
Yeah.
then I was like, oh, okay.
Yeah,
That was really
Romulus,
good.
right?
I heard it was
liked
really good. It's all
Yeah.
black and white.
Yeah, I wish it was in color because the scenery's so nice. It would have been nice to see it in color.
Yeah,
That's
they
fair.
could have at least maybe like flash different,
Something,
used
yeah.
it differently. But anyway,
But anyway, I like this movie. This was fun.
I again, these guys are really good at blending the horror.
I think she walks away and says, "What the?" F-? as she
I think
walks
you
out.
might be right. And she
Yeah.
gets in the van and then drives away.
Yeah.
And she puts a lollipop in a broken one. She's got a candy addiction.
Yeah, she's got a candy thing, and she
Well,
like finds one final piece of candy.
Yeah, I don't think it's not a candy addiction. Like it's a drug addiction.
Well, she's addicted to candy.
But she
she's
like really
replacing
she's
it with.
Yes.
Yeah, supplement,
Constantly
supplementing
yes.
candy.
Yes.
Yeah, supplementing.
I did think that she was gonna, given
I thought
these-
they were going to interview the vampire. I
Well,
thought someone
I-
was going to be in the back of that.
I thought she was gonna drive past like the burning down building
Oh,
from
the Ready
Ready
or
or Not or whatever.
I really thought she wasn't going to make it out.
I'm
of there.
honestly surprised Samara Weaving wasn't in this. Honestly,
Yeah.
like she's been in almost all of their stuff.
Yeah.
She's the Scream 7.
It's
or
really
Scream-
fun. Go watch Clue, and it's interesting. I kind of wish it weren't so similar, so that it
Sure.
wouldn't have distracted me the whole time from how close it is. And I love that movie, and I really like these creatives, and so it's just a weird thing that I had.
Yeah, no, I do think that these guys have figured out the blend of horror comedy,
Yeah.
kind of like Edgar Wright did with Shaun of the Dead.
That's a really good comparison.
Yeah, which is not an easy thing to do. But
No.
I think this is very fun. It's a blast in the theater. It got some really good reactions. I saw it at Draft House, of course, but the theater was packed.
So they put in the small theaters.
That's you gotta
They,
put-
I think they bet wrong on that one. So
you
if
know.
Gentlemanly Warfare did 10.0 or whatever, did like 10, and this did 10.1, this beat it, and
Yeah.
then was just barely under Civil War. If they put this on the big screens, we could fit more people. Like, I honestly think they,
maybe.
chose wrong,
Yeah, it's a. What are you gonna do, right?
because the theaters were 1/10 the size. So if they could have packed them.
Yeah, I think the smaller theaters are like 7 rows, 8 rows, I think. But yeah, it's a blast in the theater. I highly recommend it. Yeah.
So I guess that's it for this one. Let's go around the table and everyone can say where to find them.
This is Joey. You can follow me on the Twitter at JoeyButts, BUTTS21, and on Letterboxd at the same.
This is Kevin. Follow me on Twitter at KevinRBrackett.
And this is Tom. Follow me on Twitter at Roger Kubert or on Facebook at facebook.com/Real Spoilers. While you're there, like the page, join the group, and of course, don't forget our Patreon. So that's
and
it.
YouTube.
And YouTube.
Subscribe. Get that
Watch
up
these
there.
things. Watch these things. So that's it for this one. Thanks for tuning in. And until next time, Maurice gives Brian his leather vest.
Get ready for a spoiler. Won't say it twice, 'cause